I sought out choreographers who were interested in, making site-specific work for camera. And the notion of this is that the work only exists on the screen. That if you saw the performance live, it would be totally distinct from the work that we create for the screen, because there's things that you can do with camera and editing that are different from sitting in a live performance. And so we don't try to replicate the experience of or document what a live performance was, but rather to create something that is intended to only be seen on the screen. The Conquest and Prison is related to a film that's called Dance Dance Revolution, and that is also a documentary. The poetry in Conquest is created by repurposing snippets of the interview material that's in the documentary. There's an interview with Oscar, the choreographer and dancer, that's not about that location. But it's about the way he envisions his work. These works are all mediated by me. I'm an outsider to all of these stories, right? And so the choreographers gave me a gift. They're quite trusting in saying that I can interpret their stories. My way of working has always been to forge a relationship with the artists. They're responsible for creating the actual performance, but they've always given me the freedom to interpret it in film. It's a collaboration with distinct fields of specialty, so to speak. I scouted the locations in South Africa in consultation with the choreographers. And in each case, I'm looking for a place that could only be there, if that makes sense. So in South Africa, I had to negotiate access to these historical sites. Okay. They generally were close to the public, both the prison and this overlook that was a military site that was part of the British occupation, if you will. And so then the challenge is to take the work that the choreographers create and have it respond both to the embodied history of the place. There's an aura to these kinds of places, particularly, the prison. And then aesthetically respond to the physicality of the place. What's the architecture like? What can be manipulated? How does a body get framed or move through or interact with the actual architectural components of the space? So those are the two main axes that we're looking for. And even in Conquest and Prison, I really felt it needed more context. So that's why it starts with those cards, which are a clunky way of giving information. But I wanted to all right, here's where we are. This. Now you can go to the space and just experience the dance on whatever level you want, on just in terms of movement, or you can recall that context setting. Grahamstown is very interesting in that, that's such a British name. Even though, South Africa has been independent now for quite a number of years, there's still this segregation, if you will, between the Anglo parts of town and the in the areas where are majority Black people. And so the first part, the conquest part, you can see the weapons that were in part secured the conquest, and overlooking the, controlling the heights is what militarily was significant. And you can see one of the results of the conquest is looking down into the city. There's this giant cathedral, right? Christianity being part of the conquest. So that section exists in sort of reclaiming, right? South Africa is a Black majority ruled independent country. And those artifacts are no longer directly in use, although the legacy of the colonial experience is still really real. And it's overlaid with Oscar's own confrontation with what it means to be a Black artist in South Africa today. And so it's his personal journey that's layered with the history that he shares, right? And so, I sort of created this catalyst. I said, Oscar, let's go here and you interpret it, what's going on, and we'll see what we can create. And so the dance was largely improvised based on his response to the place, because I don't know that he's ever actually been to that place. Mm-hmm. And then the layer of his personal experiences, as I said, was constructed from the interviews that I'd done separately. The other place in the prison was similar in a sense, in that the artist had some preconceived ideas about what they wanted to do, especially with the props like the airplanes and the balloons and whatnot. And so I was asking them to think about how that need for personal expression fit within this legacy. And it was interesting because Lauren is mixed race and Julia is white, and they're in a prison that was pretty much exclusively for Black prisoners during the colonial period. And so, anyone in that space would have a visceral reaction, and they got to take that feeling they had and then express it with the vocabulary that they had, that they brought to the place. I had the resources and the opportunity to say, I really admire your work. I think more people should be familiar with it. Let's do this trade. And they gave me the gift of their participation, and I, give them the film they can use in any way they want, and then I try to send it out to the world. That if the works are a successful collaboration, they amplify voices that may not be heard by audiences that are unfamiliar with either the culture or the history or the perspective that's represented by the participants in these dances. So, but there is a lot of material these days, there's just more than we can consume. So, it's you drop a pebble in a pond and you don't know where the ripples go.